Park Zoo Zoo School Live. My name is Elisa, and I have Keeper Tim here, and he's going to tell us all about our very, very special guest today, and her name is Penny the Alligator.
Hey guys, welcome. We're really glad you're joining in with us today. Let's look over here. We have our lovely American alligator. Her name is Penny. We estimate her to be about 20 years old, although we don't know her exact age because she was actually found in a stream in Pennsylvania, which means she was probably a pet and was released because alligators are not found in Pennsylvania. They are found down in the south in Florida and Alabama, all the way over to Texas, but they have to live in warm climates. They don't like the cold climates like our winters we have up here. So we don't know exactly how old she is, but we think she's about 20 years old, and she's about 8 feet long, which is about as long as she is probably going to get in her life. Female alligators are smaller than male alligators. So I want to tell you about some really cool things that Penny has going on with her, some really cool features, adaptations that she has to let her survive and thrive in the places she lives, especially in the water. So alligators are found most of their day in the water. So they have very special features on them that allow them to survive and thrive in the water. Namely, if you look at her head, all of her special features, her eyes, her ears, which are the bumps right behind her eyes, and her nostrils at the front of her nose, they're all located at the very top of her head. That actually allows her to be able to sit in the water and see things and breathe and hear really well without letting in a bunch of water. That way she doesn't have to be holding her breath at all times. Although they are really good at holding their breath and can hold their breath for up to about an hour at a time. That lets them sit really still underwater and attack prey that might come near them that they can eat. Another cool adaptation that they have for the water is that big strong tail that you see behind her. That thing is close to about 1/3 of her body weight and about half the length of her body, and it's so strong it's what actually pushes her through the water. She doesn't use her feet very much to actually swim. She might use her feet to steer herself a little bit, but it's actually her tail that pushes herself through the water. Another really cool thing, because these guys eat in the water, it might be hard for them to not swallow a whole bunch of water every time they eat food, but they don't really want to have to do that because they eat a lot of food all at one time, and that would mean that they would swallow a lot of water. So they have these very special flaps at the back of their throat that actually close up when they eat so that they can close their mouth and then swallow their food without bringing a bunch of water into their stomachs. It also lets them sit in the water with their mouth open and still be able to breathe out of their nose rather than out of their mouth. These things give them the option to stay in the water for long periods of time. But being reptiles, alligators are what we call cold-blooded, or the fancy word for that is ectothermic. It means that they don't actually produce the heat inside of their body like we do as mammals. They have to get heat from their environment, from the sun especially. So they will actually, if they get too cold sitting in the water for too long, they will get up out and they'll sit in a really nice sunny spot. And it's like they're solar powered. If you ever see solar panels on houses or buildings and it pulls in the sunlight and it makes all that energy, that's basically what these guys do too. They take in the sunlight and they take in the heat that they get, and that lets them move around, it lets them eat, lets them do all the kinds of things that they like to do with their day. So guys, I think we're going to do something really cool now, which is that we're actually going to go in with Penny. We're going to do a feeding session with her, and you guys will get to see how she eats, you'll see how she trains a little bit, and it'll be really cool. So let's go on and say hi to Penny. So here are some of my tools. When I train Penny, this is called a target stick. So she's actually trained to approach this end of the stick and put her nose to it, and then she gets food for doing that. And these are what's called pilstrums. They're like big tongs, and they're what I hold the food in for her so that I don't have to worry about getting bit. I just have to set up for a second. This is my whistle. It's how I tell Penny that she did a really good job when she did something I asked of her to do. And let me throw on some gloves. Today Penny has fish. And I don't particularly like touching fish because it makes my hands smell. But Penny loves fish. It's her favorite food. And she's getting a whole lot of it today. All right. So you guys can come on in with me. Hi, Penny. All right, I'm going to scooch on over to the other side. I'll get her into a good spot for you guys. Hi, ladies. How are you today? Penny, target. Target. Penny! Penny, come here! So alligators have one of the strongest bite force in all of the animal kingdom. Their bites are about 3 times stronger than lions and tigers. They're about 20 times stronger than humans. So when they bite down on something, they bite it really, really hard. Penny, come here. Target. Come here. Right here. Penny Gator. Gonna focus. So Penny is working on a new behavior these days, and it's an open mouth behavior. It's where I ask her to open her mouth for me. She gets a reward for doing that. So we're still in the early stages, so she's learning. But open. So little by little, she gets to learn these things, and she's very, very smart. Open. One more, come on. Come on. There it is. Hey, here. Penny Gator. Penny. Open. So something that you can watch while she is in the water is the way that she can make her body go up and down. She can fill her body with air, and that lets her float on the top. It gets her closer to the sunshine. It also puts her body into a little bit better of a position for different things that she might want to do. But sometimes she then lets her body drop down into the water and kind of sit in almost a standing position. Okay, come here. Penny. And just like any person or animal, she has the choice to do what she wants, and sometimes she gets to be a little bit stubborn. So we just hang out with her and we see what she wants to do for the day. I think she's still interested in food. Oh, drop that one, Ken. Did you get it? No. Alright. Sorry, I know. I know. Did I drop that? Drop that? Yeah, that's very nice. So Penny tends to be really feisty. When she's hungry, she's very, very feisty. But when she gets a little bit more full, she starts to slow down. She gets a little bit more polite. She'll take food really nice and gently sometimes. All right, Penny, that's all the food I have for you today. So with alligators, actually, let me get a little bit closer to you guys. It might be a little easier to hear. With alligators, because they don't make their own heat, it means they don't have to eat quite as often as other animals like we do. We eat, 3 times a day if we can. These guys, they'll only eat, depending on the meal size, maybe 2 times a week. If they get a really big meal, they might eat once a week or even once every other week. And then in the winter time, when the temperatures get really cool, they might go months at a time without eating. So Penny here, she eats twice a week, which means every time I come in here, she's always really excited for her next meal. So the last thing that we're gonna do really quick before I start answering questions, before we start doing that kind of stuff, is I wanna give Penny a piece of enrichment. Now, if you guys don't know, enrichment is different things that we give to our animals on a daily basis that let them explore the world around them. It lets them tap into some of their natural instincts and just get to explore different kinds of things. That might be sometimes new smells, it might be sometimes new foods, and sometimes it's new toys. So today, we have a really big plastic toy that we actually originally got for our jaguars. It's really big, it's really thick, so the jaguars can't break it, and it means it's probably big enough that Penny hopefully can't break it either. I don't think she can quite fit her mouth around it, so she should be good to go. But Penny loves enrichment, she loves interacting with new things, so we'll see how she does today. Penny! Here, you come over here. So Penny loves snapping her jaws at these things, throwing them around. It's one of her favorite things to do. So if you saw the way she was eating when I was feeding her and the way she just went after that pill, she is really hard on her teeth. So I mentioned they have really strong bite forces, one of the strongest in all of the animal kingdom. Which means that her teeth get worn down because they snap so hard on things, and when alligators eat their prey, they rip them around with their heads and they twirl them underwater. So their teeth get worn down a lot. And now alligators, they have a lot of teeth. They have maybe about 80 teeth in their mouth at a given time, but when their teeth get worn down, they actually fall out of their head. And they grow new ones, and they can grow more and more and more. Unlike us, who we only get 2 sets of teeth in our life, our baby teeth and our adult teeth, alligators can keep growing more and more teeth. They can actually have up to about 3,000 teeth in their entire lifetime because they are so rough with them. They need to be able to keep their teeth in good shape in order to continue to hunt for the rest of their lives. Now, I didn't get into it quite yet, but so I fed Penny fish, and alligators would definitely eat fish in the wild. But alligators will eat most anything. They'll eat anything as small as a rat or a fish, but then sometimes they even hunt things as big as deer. So they can actually hunt things about the size that they are, which is pretty amazing. So I mentioned them having a really big meal at a time. If they got a deer to eat, probably wouldn't eat for like 2 weeks. She would be really, really full. Alright guys, well we're going to head back inside, and I'm going to answer any questions that you guys might have for me. I'll bring in my stuff so that Penny doesn't get to mess with it at all. And now we can hang out and chat at the safety of behind the big thick glass that Penny can't get through.
All right, it's Vivian's first day of first grade, so happy first day of first grade, Vivian. She's 6 years old, and she wants to know if, along with using their tail to help them swim, if alligators use their tails for defense.
You know, that's a really, really great question, Vivian. So alligators, they can use their tails for defense, but it's not what they prefer to use. So for defense with alligators, they're always going to want to try and use their mouth. That's their strongest point. That's their most dangerous point. If they have to defend themselves, they'll want to use their mouths. However, you're right, their tail is so strong and can whip back and forth really, really well that if they're in a situation where maybe they have somebody behind them and somebody in front of them, their tail acts as a great line of defense to keep things away, because you do not want to get hit by that tail, I promise you. So again, she's going to want to use her mouth and her teeth as her primary means of defense, but absolutely she can use her tail as defense as well.
Laura wants to know, how do you move Penny to different areas in the zoo?
That's an awesome question. So, what we've done, so you guys saw a little bit of our training there with the targeting and the open mouth behavior. Another thing that we have trained Penny to do, and that she has learned really well, is to actually enter a crate. So we have a big, long, 9-foot crate that she goes into. You can actually see it on the camera right now. It's in the background there. So she will actually just voluntarily, when we ask her to, she will walk into that crate. We can close the doors on either side. She'll sit there. She'll be pretty calm most of the time when she's in there. And then we can actually pick her up and move her. That's how we managed to move her when we had some flooding a few weeks ago, and how we've moved her on and off of it when it gets too cold in the past. So yeah, she's trained to go in that crate, and it makes a much safer situation for us and a much more enjoyable situation for her when she has to move.
Awesome. Kate would like to know, how much does Penny weigh now, and what is her favorite enrichment?
So Penny weighs, if I'm not mistaken, she weighs somewhere between 150 and 200 pounds. She is almost completely muscle. So she's 8 feet long, her tail gets pretty thin at the bottom, but she is a muscular, strong lady, and so she's got a lot of weight behind her. So that's about as much as I weigh, which means if she were to get a hold of me, it would be a really bad day. Her favorite piece of enrichment, she honestly, anything like this pill, a really big, indestructible piece of plastic that she can just throw around and bite at, anything like that, that's her favorite. Sometimes we'll give her scents, and that's kind of cool for her a little bit, but she just loves to thrash and throw things around. So anything like this pill, those are her favorite pieces of enrichment.
Inka wants to know if Penny likes this pool better than the one in her other exhibit.
That's a great question. I tried to ask Penny this, and she declined for comment. But just based on watching her, I think that she likes both a lot. So she spends a ton of time in her pool at the other enclosure too. And she really likes that pool a lot. She can still submerge all the way. But I think something that she really likes about this pool specifically is the glass. I think she likes to be able to see the people approaching her, see people watching her, engage with them through the glass a little bit. I think that's the biggest part of this pool that she really enjoys compared to the other one. But you know what? She loves her other pool too. Her other pool is actually heated, so if it gets a little cooler, she can warm up in it, and it's really nice for her as well. So she loves any source of water, but again, yeah, I think she likes the glass in this one a lot.
Christine would like to know if Penny has any siblings, and also how old can she get?
So we don't know if Penny has siblings. When alligators are born, they're born in eggs, in what's called a clutch, so a group of eggs. And generally there are multiple alligators born in a single clutch. However, we don't actually know Penny's origin. We don't know when she was hatched or where she was hatched. And so because of that, we can't actually guarantee that she does have siblings, but I would bet she does, based on the fact that alligators are born with multiple siblings in a clutch of eggs. What was the second part of that question?
The second part is, how old can Penny live to?
How old can Penny live to? So alligators are known to grow really old. There have been alligators that grow into their 80s, that's pretty common, 90s, and there's even been alligators and crocodiles that live over 100 years old. These guys, again, because they're cold-blooded, they don't age the same way that other animals do. So they tend to age slower. They tend to grow slower, and they tend to live a bit longer than a lot of other animals. So yeah, these guys can live a very long time, possibly over 100 years old.
Could you repeat how Penny ended up coming to Elmwood Park Zoo?
Absolutely. So this is a very weird story. So a while back, over 10 years ago, probably closer to 15 years ago, there's a local creek that's not too far from Elmwood Park Zoo. It's called the Penny Creek. There were reports that there was an alligator in the creek. This is very weird because, again, alligators are not native to Pennsylvania, which means that most likely somebody had her as a pet. And if you didn't know, alligators really don't make good pets. They take a lot of space. As you saw, they're very, very feisty. They take a lot of food and very specific types of food, and they grow fast. And so what probably happened was the person who had her as a pet said, oh no, she's getting too big, she's getting too feisty, I can't take care of her anymore. And they released her out into the creek, which is dangerous. It's dangerous both for the people who swim in the creek, of course. You don't want to get attacked by an alligator. I cannot stress that enough. But it's also dangerous for Penny, because she would not survive our winters. Our winters here are too cold for her. So when there were reports of an alligator in that creek, animal control went out. They were able to capture her safely, and they needed a place to bring her, so we offered a spot here for the rest of her life at Elmwood Park Zoo. So that's how we ended up with Penny, and that's also, coincidentally, how she ended up with her name, is because she was found in the Penny Creek.
Everly wants to know if Penny ever comes out of the water.
That's a great question. So Penny actually does. She loves to come out of the water. You'll see her out of the water maybe close to half of her day, maybe a little less than half her day. She likes to go up on the bank and then soak in the sunshine. So again, if they're in the water, they love the water and they need the water. But after a long, long, long time, the water actually lowers their body temperature. So in order to get their body temperature back up to where it needs, alligators and crocodiles do need to get out of the water and soak up the sun. And that's what she does. She loves sunshine. She loves being what we call solar-powered Penny. So when she soaks up the sun, she gets really excited. She gets to move a lot faster, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, she definitely comes out of the water pretty regularly.
All right, it looks like we have about 2 more questions. Carol would like to know what her favorite snacks are to eat at the zoo.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great question. So Penny mostly eats fish and rats. Those are her 2 favorite foods. I would say probably of the 2, fish are her absolute favorite. But every once in a while, Penny does get to have treats. Sometimes she gets to have chickens, and sometimes if we have them, she'll even eat an entire rabbit, which that's like her favorite. If she can have a whole entire rabbit, that's her favorite snack of all of them. But it's funny because sometimes as enrichment, we also like to give her big produce like watermelons. And when she gets a watermelon, she doesn't really want to eat it, but she wants to smash it. So we throw the watermelon into her pool, and she smashes it with her big, strong jaws, and it splats everywhere, and she also loves that too.
All right. It looks like our last question is from Michael, and Michael wants to know if Penny will eat the fish that you dropped.
You know, Penny probably will eat the fish that I drop. That's a great question. That happens pretty often when we feed her, is that sometimes she misses her food. Penny has a little bit of a sight deficit. She can't see as well, probably because of a prior injury that she had. And then also, sometimes just the way that her eyes are on top of her head, it's hard to see exactly where the food is on either end of her mouth. So sometimes she'll knock the food out of my toms, or as you saw, sometimes the fish is slippery and I will just drop the food. She's generally pretty good at picking that up off the bottom, and if she doesn't, we'll come back in a few hours or maybe tomorrow and we'll use a net to get it so that it doesn't just sit in the water. But Penny loves her food, and she can smell the food, and she'll find it underwater most of the time. Hey guys, well, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning into Zoo School Live, and make sure to tune in this Thursday for our next episode. Bye guys.